Hey guys, welcome back to another Parkitect Diorama build challenge from CoasterB. This is for the month of November, and there's a little bit of difference to this month. This is built by another community member named Dan Ambley, or Dan for short, as I've been giving his name. And he gave us a interesting layout. So we have a mine train coaster with switch tracks and an elevator, so there's coaster anarchies involved, and then a river rapids to kind of go through it all. So I have some ideas, and I have a theme picked already for this build. This was kind of a difficult one to kind of wrap my brain around because of how close the track and the river rapids kind of intersect. But I think I have some cool ideas, so I'll show you the first beginnings of the time lapse of what I'm working on. So I'll see you there. Okay, first things first, I will tell you what we're going to be building in this diorama challenge. So the theme I picked was a Atlantis theme. So I was recently watching the movie Atlantis Lost Empire, and I was scrolling through Google for some concept arts and stuff like that for different things, and I stumbled upon Atlantis Lost Empire concept art and some renders and models of Atlantis ride in SeaWorld. I'm not sure which one. I think Orlando's, which is a water ride, so, or a water coaster to be exact. And so that's the theme I kind of just put my mind to. So I've done Atlantis before in like a blueprint a long time ago, like maybe like 2-3 years ago. And so I felt like doing a Atlantis theme with a mine train would be appropriate, and plus with the river rapids would also be appropriate as well, because I wasn't going to do a Western theme because I think Western was kind of the easy cop-out. So doing something a little bit different would add a challenge to it and also make it unique at the end of the day. So what you see up right now is I'm just figuring out where some of the land would try to sit. So the challenge for this map, because this piece of track in the middle is supposed to be a chain lift that's cracked and broken, and it's supposed to simulate that this train acts like Everest. So I kind of didn't really do much with it. I just kind of left it open. I could have 100% covered it just to hide it, but I think that's also cheating, and it's it would be cheating or kind of a lazy way to doing it. So I'm trying not to be lazy, even though I want to, but I want to try to stay away from that. So this first section is going to be where the middle tower is for Atlantis. So Atlantis is kind of going to be not everywhere, but was majority of the map, so kind of want to have the train and the river rapids kind of interact with Atlantis ruins. It's going to be like half ruined and half being lived in, so it's the whole map's called Atlantis Hidden City, so it's being lived in. So kind of would just want to do interactions with the train and the river rapids, so making bridges and towers and rocks kind of hug the rails and hugging the river. Here's the section of bridge that will be built later. So I kind of did this checkerboard thing before in this color tone, so white and a teal blue. And mostly I used the adventure pack in this one. So the first Atlantis that I built was a water coaster, and I did not have the adventure pack available. So it was really nice to work on it again, or work on a new version in a different way with the adventure pack. It's actually really nice. So this is turning out. This build turned out pretty well, I think. It was difficult because of how the layout was positioned, but I think that's at the end of that is the challenge. So gotta kind of deal with what you have and kind of go from there. So just figuring out where some different rocks and things go. Most of this build was vanilla. The only mod that I used was Construction Anarchy as usual, and then the broken track piece near the chain lift is from the Everest mod, so that's the only mods that I'm using. Everything else is vanilla assets. So here I wanted to try something different with cylinders. Instead of having just cylinders go down as a pole, I kind of spaced them out, and I added some orbs in it to make it look like at night. You'll probably see what it looks like at night eventually when we get to that point. But here I'm just figuring out the logistics of where buildings and towers should start going. There's really not much going on right now until things start picking up, which it will. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to cover up the building. Oh yeah, figure out how to cover up the station for the river rapids and the mine train. That was kind of the difficult part, figuring that out. So yeah, no new insights here besides just trial and error. You kind of have to be patient in things like this. Total build time for this I think was 10 hours, on and off a couple days. Kind of been busy this month, so this video is going to come out pretty late, so I can't really help that. I've been kind of busy with real life stuff and figuring out the next couple projects. So here's the orbs I put in between those cylinders to kind of give it this teal blue look, and then at night everything glows at night. So like the whole Atlantis is powered by some type of magical energy of some sort. So that was kind of the story based of it, and it looks really cool at night. I think it's always important to have a build that has color in it and lighting as well. So it's adds a whole other definition and dimension to the build. So figuring out over here some more buildings to kind of have the coaster kind of wrap around, and this is for more filler. So I'm trying to find ways to have things look interesting and also doesn't look out of place. Because again, the whole layout is kind of wacky, but again, mine train coasters are wacky anyway, so I'm kind of trying to work with it. Here I'm just working on again in the tower, just jumping back and forth on things, so it's not really like consistent. I should be consistently working on one thing, but it's kind of hard to keep track of something, so I kind of bounce around and figure out what to do with some different areas. I'm doing the shape method for building rockwork and mountain ranges is always a good thing. Kind of help you with your scaling, and the making mountains first also helps in like figure out where the scale of things go in a way. If you understand that. Yeah, not really much to influence you guys on besides just watching me just build more cylinders. Shapes was kind of a big thing this month for me, and just using tons of concept art from the internet as usual. What else is in this build is later on you'll see workings of one custom vehicle, because I made 2 custom vehicles for this map, and then I went from there. Yeah, wow, I really stay on this building a while. I'm just figuring out the logistics and figuring out the design of all this stuff. Yeah, I wasn't really sure how to start the towers or get the towers more built, so I experimented a lot. There's a lot of not like in the beginning. There's like it's very slow until you start getting onto a groove, and I didn't find my groove until later. So that was the struggle. Yeah, I was really struggling. I'm probably not going to struggle as hard in the next month, which is already out. So I'm going to take a look at that very soon, work on that, and then the upcoming multiplayer is coming up in 5 days now. Wow, it's actually very close. Well, 5 days from this recording. So whenever this comes out, it'll be 5 days from then, or it might be even closer when this video comes out. But it's very soon. I've been beta testing that actually, so that's where most of my time has gone, is on beta testing that and then real life stuff, so like work and stuff like that. So, but beta testing has been fun, breaking it, playing with some of the other testers. It's been a blast. So multiplayer, there might be some future things coming up for multiplayer, maybe from me or maybe from some other known creators. I'm gonna leave it at that. So we'll see what happens, because I think it would be cool to have a like build session with somebody that's very prominent in the community, maybe. I'm also thinking about doing some like live Parkitect universities with a couple people from the Discord. That is an idea of mine. It's like a class kind of in a way. I don't know if it probably could work. I just haven't figured out the logistics yet on who would want to learn how to build, let's say, a car or a dragon or something, or a building. So I haven't fully like explored into it yet, but it's an idea that I've been thinking about for the last couple months since multiplayer was announced on my end, because I'm a beta tester from the last DLC, so I kind of was informed about this. I was like, okay, so multiplayer, so how do we play this? And I've been kind of beta testing it, but right off the bat I was like, I can make live classes for Parkitect University, so I think that would be a cool opportunity. And yeah, it's coming out very soon. It's the only theme park game that offers multiplayer, which is pretty cool and unique on itself. So yeah, enough about multiplayer. Let's talk about what's going on here. So as the tower kind of grows in its detailing, I kind of get into the groove again, and then figuring out my rock placements again for all things like the waterfall and some of the river to try to hide up the track a little bit. So when it comes down to realism and not realism, I kind of have decided that it's a theme park ride to begin with, so we don't have to make this as realistic as possible. So I've figured out that I'm just going to build a cover over the chain lift where the river rapids is, so kind of saying that this has been covered up by, well, the park, so that keeps all the maintenance stuff or all the chain lifts all protected from the elements, so it's not really meant to be here, but I also don't need to make this realistic, because again, this is supposed to be part of a theme park. Because I think all our builds should be like that, because they're not supposed to be as realistic. I'm not like supposed to make a real Atlantis. At first, Atlantis is not even real, for all we know. I don't know what it could look like. This is just a guess in its architecture, and it's kind of a mix between Roman and some other, I don't know, European. Roman. It's more Roman and maybe. Yeah, I don't know what architecture that Atlantis is. Never really thought about that before recording. Huh. Yeah, I just kind of pulled from the movie Atlantis, Lost Empire. And I also pulled from the ride from SeaWorld, so I had tons of references. So again, it wasn't hard getting the references, it was hard replicating it. And also trying to use different pieces again. And I still was able to pull that off. So like these blue pieces here I'm using are not cylinders, those are candy peppermints painted one color. Kind of give it that shiny look. So I like the shininess of some of these pieces, it makes it look unique and interesting. And I mean, this whole map is basically because of Taste of Adventure DLC. Without that DLC, I couldn't do most of this. I probably would have done it out of shapes or something if it was like vanilla or something, but Taste of Adventure DLC, way to go. The best DLC so far. I even like the Booms and Blooms DLC too, even though I was part of it. That's still good DLC as well. So they all have their pros and cons, but I'm not going to delve into it. It's not like a review of the DLCs. I don't really do stuff like that, but yeah. Here I did some roof custom tiling. I've done this before, hundreds of times now. This one I did all by hand quickly so that I can get it the shape I wanted and the angles and the depth, and then copied it all over the place in a second. Yeah, there I go. Copy, 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 copy. And then I copied it over, filled in the gaps that I was missing, and copied it one more time. Well, first I did the cylinder on top to kind of gap the roof, like finish off the roof. I did this with two different sizes of cylinder to give it some different look. Did I change? Oh yeah, I did change it. It's not high enough. Yep, switching back between 0.05 and 0.01 always helps in builds like this. Because when you're at 0.05, it's easier to lift things versus 0.01, which takes forever to lift something vertically. So that's easier to do so. And then custom painting on the entire roof with 3 or 4 different tones of teal blue, just to give it that rustic and used look. So that helps as well. Yeah, it's really cool watching it in fast forward actually. Me painting it, that's really neat. Yeah, it's always fun to see my builds in a faster format, because then I don't remember when I'm building. I'm just concentrating on build at the moment, not really thinking, oh, why did I do that or why did I do this, and this is kind of how it goes. Paint, 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 all that cool, good stuff. Yeah, painting different tones of the same color gives it a rustic feel, or an old, ancient look. I think that's always the way to go. Even on, like, if you're supposed to build a new building and the building's supposed to still look new, I still think it's good to make it used and old a little bit, because not all buildings stay clean. Nothing stays clean in the world. Everything's dirty outside, so I think that's the best thing to do. Here's some bushes that are going to start developing. So this is where I just kind of jump from project to project. This is grunt work. All of this that you see here is not like this is grunt work, just doing detail work, basically grunt. I'm just adding details here, interests, points of interests, and things like that. I did a crystal idea that were the same color as the rock, which I shouldn't have done. I do change that into a blue crystal because I feel like that should be like the power of Atlantis or something, or some type of energy source that the Atlanteans have found out or figured out or something. Who knows? So that's kind of the story based of it. The story kind of developed itself because I figured that the mine train was built by the explorers so that they were trying to excavate the energy crystals or something, and they got in trouble, and so that's kind of how things are kind of built. This was a interesting way to kind of cover up the river rapids. So I did some poles placed by hand. That was about maybe 40 to 45 to an hour of placements of those poles to kind of give it that unique look. I do like that Parkitect gives us the option to freeform things, because it does make things more unique and more fluid and more curved, if you want to. Yeah, more curved, because I wanted to follow the river rapids turn. So that's what I kind of did, just kind of followed it. And then worked a little bit back and forth on the chain lift, and adding some vases and treasure boxes. I did some broken down blocks here to kind of block the railroad because the train goes backwards. This doesn't make any sense, because it doesn't, because those blocks come from where? Don't know, from somewhere, but they're from somewhere, so kind of doesn't make sense. Again, this is a theme park, so why would theme parks really make any... Well, no, amusement parks probably wouldn't even make it proper either. See, I'm trying to say that it's like, what's those other theme parks? They're kind of based off of Disney stuff, but they're not. I think there's a place called Happy Valley in China, and their theming's pretty cool and pretty extensive, but it also doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of the feel I'm trying to go for. Like, to be honest, the tile roofing in the middle where it's covered up the chain lift for the river rapids and the train, mine train, I don't like it, and I still needed something in the middle to kind of bring the buildings together, because if I left it empty, I think it would lose so much of its style. But I also don't like it anyway. But yeah, that's just, I think, me being a little bit more critical on my end than if people saw it and things like that. So it's kind of a mix from both. But this build, to the scale of what I'm satisfied with, I'm about 85 to 90% satisfied of the build. I wasn't going to give up on this one like I did the one with the bobsled coaster. The bobsled coaster was a difficult one. I gave up after I did some theming of like a steampunk thing, and then I'm like, okay, I'm out. I can't theme bobsleds. They're so difficult besides just doing snow, and so I kind of failed on that one. And see here, what are we doing? We're working on the main tower, so just kind of messing with shapes. I like that we have shapes that are 45. I can have this striped looking domed roof, which is really cool, and then just kind of make the tower just go higher and higher. It's the tallest point in the map, so I feel like that should be your center point especially. And then detailing with some junk and stuff, because it is a lived tower. So this is like the palace, not necessarily the village of Atlantis. That's probably later, like elsewhere in the park. I think this is the real park, so it's kind of the idea. This section here was a last second, but a additional, no, last thought additional. So I wanted to build some rotunda over the broken track. Kind of makes sense for where the train would go. And I felt like that the tower by itself was basically naked, and I didn't like that. So I needed to add something to it to give it more structure, more design, if you want to call it. It just needed something with it. So building a rotunda was kind of the solution, and so I did poles. I'm going to do that in a second. And then I did some bumpers in the water to kind of make sure the boat doesn't hit the poles, but I was kind of just, that's right, because it goes into the river, and it's actually cool that it's in the river, so makes it look unique, makes the river look tighter, more realistic. You can see how it cuts through. I'm going to put some of those bumpers in the way. It slows the boat down significantly. Here it's going to crash actually. Watch the boat come up. And then I'm going to put some plants and grass everywhere to make it look overgrown. Like that section's not being really used, but it's used. And it's supposed to be Atlantis, it's supposed to be somewhat destructive and ruined. It's a ruin. So there's the boat. Raft gets stuck, and then I move them more inward. And then it works from there. Yeah, that piece actually is sticking out the wall a little bit. I think I fixed that later, but probably not even caught on camera. Because I did a lot of grunt work off camera too, just because I don't want to fill up my hard drive full of just footage of just me working on plants and stuff. So yeah. This is here where I need to figure out how to cover up this station. This station was a challenging one, because we had 2 stations to cover up versus just one, or we just do a regular build challenge, so that was fun to figure this one out. I mainly use the steampunk roofs as different types of roofs from different cultures. I think it works well because it has this shininess to it, even though maybe it's not supposed to be metal, but I like the detailing on the roof. I like to use that as a ancient roof than an actual steampunk type of metal roofing, or whatever you want to call it. So I do like the detailings on this piece. You can kind of tell from my style of building what pieces I prefer, what pieces I don't prefer. But most likely I like preferring the shapes. The walls are good. The borders are my favorite thing to use because they really can bring out a lot of detail in a lot of buildings. And then roofs. I like all the roofs are good except for the fantasy roofs. Fantasy roofs are hard to use because there's only one style. If we had more than one style, I think I could use them more. But unfortunately, I can only use them in very rare circumstance. Like if I'm building a very simple Chinese building, I think those would work well because they look like tiles. But other than that, all the roofs are pretty good to use. Some of the other pieces that I wouldn't really use a lot. I'm trying to think. No, most of the pieces could be used in different ways to give yourself a different effect. Things like that. Like, oh, there's some pieces coming up that you'll probably see that I use. We'll see. I might have to catch it later, but I use strawberry pieces for like pole decoration, and it's actually really cool because it has little speckles on them. It actually works out really well. But yeah, a lot of the adventure pack stuff went into this map just to give it more detail and all that stuff. For example, the candy stuff is always the best to use for pieces because they're very versatile, except for some of the candy pieces. Let me think here. Candy corn is not useful unless you're making some Halloween map or something candy related. Candy corn is not recolorable. It's resizable, but not recolorable. So that's a downfall. But I also get that you shouldn't make every piece recolorable. I think that would kind of break the game a little bit. Making your scenery pieces a little more challenging maybe is better. Well, Planet Coaster does the same thing, I think. They have some pieces that are recolorable and some pieces that aren't. The downfall for Planet Coaster is that nothing's resizable. And I can't get my head around that yet, and I've been trying to venture into Planet Coaster, but kind of just sticking to this game. And this game's easier to run on my system than Planet Coaster, so right now this is the game that I'm going to be playing. But there's other games I've been eyeballing actually. Let's see here. Prehistoric Kingdom, which is supposed to be like a Jurassic Evolution clone, but on its own. It's supposed to be being released maybe next year, early quarter, or like early access, I think. And that looks very promising. I'm gonna have to jump into that, see how that is built, because I was going to get Jurassic Park Evolution, but I just haven't, pushed the button and actually bought it. So I'm not going to yet. Maybe when it goes on Christmas sale, who knows? I got other projects still like this. Finished Atlantis. Well, I finished Atlantis because the CoasterB's results already happened actually. So if you want to go take a look who won the November Diorama challenge, you can take a look on CoasterB's channel. I'm gonna leave a link in the description probably, just so you guys can go find it. I won't spoil anything because I don't need to. You'll figure out in the video, but we had some really cool creations this month, some really good builders, and every time we do this type of challenge it gets better and better. So I expect a lot from December's build. We'll see how that goes. And that's going to be some wild stuff, but I have some ideas for that ride too, and yeah, it'll be fun stuff. The ongoing project that's still working on is American Adventure, so that's either I'm going to start working on that dark ride that I explained in the last video, or I'm going to start working on the river rapids. Don't know which one I'm going to jump onto, but we'll see. I know that also because Christmas is coming up, I'm going to have less time to do stuff maybe, and work is also working as well, so that things like that are going to slow things down. So videos hasn't been consistent, but I've been trying to get these out. So sorry for slow upload, but it is how life goes. So I do still have fun making these videos, so don't get me wrong, this has been fun. So this is the station for the mine train. So this is just kind of the extension of the palace maybe, or something. It was going to be maybe like a miner's camp, but it later turned into just a temple, which was way easier to build. And yeah, just kind of match the same style with the rest of the build, kind of make it cohesive around. Don't want to jump too much into different themes. I also want to make it look different, so I do plan. That's why I do different like roof styles a little bit, and then the shape of it also makes it look different and unique. The red maroon piece for the shape was added later because I felt like we needed some red to kind of cut off from the teal and the gold that I was using a lot. So this kind of actually helped out with its structure, and then kind of popped. So here we are into the first vehicle, and one of the biggest vehicles actually. So again, this was inspired by Atlantis Lost Empire movie from Disney. And so I decided to build the drill. Not exactly the drill, but close enough under my rendition. So this is the drill that would have been drilled through the ground, and then they found the Atlantis basically, and then they parked it off to the side after they were done drilling. So yeah, the skeleton there was a way to figure out my scaling for peeps, and then I kind of went from there, all built out of shapes and different pieces. And this was a quite long build. I think it took me 45 to an hour to build this drill. I used different shapes like the chimney piece to give it that angle on top, and then cones for the drill that later turns into gears because I felt like that it should be spinning still even though it's parked. But I do like movement in a map, so dynamic stuff is actually a good idea. And then some cylinders kind of bring out the size of it, and then did some shiny candy pieces to give it that mechanical look and the mechanical feel. And then those little dots you see there are from the steampunk pipes. They actually work really well as like rivets and stuff like that, so that actually worked out really well. And then some more brackets on the boiler, because this thing's supposed to be steam powered, I think, or something like that. And that's, yeah, added some straps actually instead of some brackets. That actually worked out better. And the front wheels are supposed to be like a tread, but I just made them into regular wheels, so it lost its action. And then 4 more of those. That tried to work, but didn't work out really well. So I went for a very basic candy piece. That's the peppermint piece. And then, yeah, this is me trying different things with the drill to make it look unique, but just having cones kind of didn't work out, so that changes actually a little bit. See me as I'm just figuring things out, figuring out how the front's supposed to have like some type of cow catcher, not necessarily a cow catcher, but like a scoop or something to help with the dirt get spread apart, and then it goes from there. And then here's the gear pieces that I used as the drill, and this actually worked out really well because it looks like a drill actually, with all those gears kind of just stacked upon each of themselves. And then some smokestacks that will later, yep, those are going to be their smokestacks. Oh no, I got rid of them, wow. Yeah, a lot of deleting and replacing. So don't be scared when you're trying to build something that's custom like this. That's kind of what I can all say. That's a window, and that's the covering, some pipes, more pillars. Ah, there's the smokestack that used the pipes. And they're very low because it has to be. And some more, oh yeah, the lights, that's cool. I think I put more gears on the drill. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I need a little bit more just to add more to it. And then that's supposed to be a door in the back, but I don't think I put a door in the back at all. I just put pipes, yeah. Just kind of give it that mechanical look. Another window. And then cover up the gap between the roof and basically the cab. And that's the drill that should be done. And then some dirt mounds underneath to kind of give it that it's been resting here a while. What you don't see in the video, I made a tread of dirt from the tunnel, from the cave entrance into where the vehicle sits. And we're on to the last stretch of the time lapse. This is a long one, so I just wanted to cram everything into one video instead of making 2 or 3. And I think it's easier, but it's also not because it takes longer to make this video, but it's easier to have it in one video. So this is supposed to be the miners' camp of some sort. So the elevators needed a lift of some sort, so I decided to go into some mining stuff. And so the team of Atlantis kind of did this, made this little camp, and this is probably where they either process the gems that they found and they get ready to be shipped to the surface or something like that. So that was kind of the idea, was to kind of give a place to kind of get things ready to go. There's a restaurant in here to kind of give this place a theme park feel again, because I think you need to have a restaurant of some sort to add to it. So that's what I did. And then you can see here I was just doing some grunt work with all the trees and stuff in the forest and the different levels of dirt and rocks. And this is where it starts feeling it out. I start feeling it out. I feel how this place feels and how it's going to look. Yep, pipe into the building because it's water, and they need water for food. And then I think there's a turkey stand in there, which makes, I think, some sense. I wasn't going to go to some tropical, so we don't even have tropical food. Huh. Yeah, out of everything, we should have got like a tiki bar or something out of the Taste of Adventure pack. That would be cool. We got a sub shop, and what else we got? Cookie shop. Can't remember the other ones, but we got a couple of different things. So, yeah. That custom sign will have a custom text that we'll build later on paint.net. I did the Atlantis symbol from the movie, kind of just took it from there. Made it their explorer flag or something. And then on top here is the gear that lifts up the trains into their lifts. Yeah, just to make something somewhat believable, but not really realistic. Yeah. Looks good so far. Oh, there's the last vehicle. Yeah, the last vehicle that I made was a water vehicle, so it holds water for the miners and or the explorers. And then I did the licorice piece to kind of simulate cables, because they look like cables from far, and if you paint them black, they look like cables. So I did that, and then a cylinder, not cylinder, that's a disc. Onto the gear. It looks like it wraps around the gear, and the gear is supposed to lift up these train cars up into this lift. And then, yeah, in that house there is basically its operation house. And then some wires to kind of have power and wires being used everywhere and kind of loop around. I think that actually looks cool. I might use that more often in some other builds with the wire type of thing, with cables. Kind of give it some electrical wires. Oh, I can use cables for... I did use cables for electric wires for another build. I could do that again, actually. Yeah, just continue with detailing, and as you can see, the map just kind of builds itself. At the end it does, but in the beginning it was kind of the struggle starting it off. So, again, don't be afraid when things don't always start off like really well, so you kind of have to just work with it. And then basalt pillars also help with the ancient tropical look, because I think those towers or those pieces are actually really useful. And then more detailing, back and forth stuff. Some treasure chests if they're trying to take away, bring it back to the surface, things like that. I was going to do a minecart thing here, and then that later got rid of it because it didn't really work. Experimentation. Don't be afraid to do it. It's okay to delete it and never use it again. Yeah, I think that's always the best thing to do. It's always good to experiment. Yeah, and then I just covered with the depot and rocks. It really wasn't anything special to kind of do with the depot. But I could have done something better, maybe a ruined tower, maybe? But it didn't really come to mind when I was working on it. See, things like this come out later after I review my footage. It's so funny. So I'm going to leave you guys here. We're going to do one last tour, maybe a night shot and some day shot, and then, yeah, I'll meet you there. Okay, welcome to Atlantis Hidden City. So here's the full map in its full glory, in its final rendition, and you'll see some. Well, I want to show you around what some close-up details and things like that I didn't show you in like the time lapse and things like that. So let's first do the beginning here. So this is just where Atlantis. So the mine train roller coaster is called Atlantis Expedition Atlantis, so it's kind of playing off the name of Expedition Everest, so it kind of was just doing that. Here is the water vehicle that I discussed earlier. Here it sits in its little spot. Some key things like the rim of the wheel is actually a text for the text engine, so it's a tire. It's actually, you can see it turns invisible a little bit, but I felt like it needed a little bit of an umph on its wheel, and the details on the truck, a whole bunch of different pieces. And then here's the ground effect where the treads are for the drill, and the drill just sits here with the A kind of sitting here after it did its thing, digging through the ground. And then here's the custom flag that I worked on. So a very simple A. And then some close-ups of like the village is supposed to extend this way, so maybe just imagine the theme park kind of goes in that direction. And then here's some close-ups of some of the interaction with the river rapids and the train, all this stuff. yeah, there was a lot that went into it. Here's something that I didn't show you in the time lapse was a little statue that I built out of shapes and some adventure pieces, and then a waterfall with the water effects and splash to kind of give it that it's going and stuff. I like these new pieces that we got here. These really help in making waterfalls more realistic now. Here's the strawberry pieces I explained earlier. Give it that different look and feel. Detailing, again, we're using pieces that were not intended. Here's the little mining facility or outpost for the explorers. Kind of cover up this lift. It actually works out, I think. And then the crystals are kind of sprinkled all over the place. Some are glowing, some are not, so they're like their energy crystals. And then here's the main tower. And then the bridge that goes across the main palace over here, where everything's kind of this is basically part of the major theme park, or part of the theme park in general. And then here's the station for the river rapids. What did I call the river rapids? I just call it Atlantis Rapids. Oh, okay. I should have made a better name. And then I did detailing on the edge of the map to give it that diorama feel, because I think this is the coolest thing to do. So I did some cool little things with these are peppermint pieces, and then these are borders. They're just glowing. And don't want to forget to show you what it looks like at night. So see the crystals that are still kind of glowing. They're the ones that are kind of at that weird grid, 9 grid or something like that you want to call it. And then here's the crystals as they glow at night. I think this looks really cool at night. Kind of what was I going for was to making the map different in 2 different ways. So night, it gives it off a different way. That's why the orbs kind of hide it when you change from day to night. So as you're in day, you don't even know that those glow. You're just like, oh, they're shiny, okay. And then when you switch, they go into this glow nighttime setting, and I think it actually adds a lot of like mystical and magic to it. And so yeah. So this is the November diorama build challenge. Go check out CoasterB's video on the results, and I will catch you guys in the next diorama build challenge. This challenge sounds like it's going to be smaller, and yeah, we'll go from there. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.